So after a couple of weeks on the road, I lost my voice. I'm just starting to get it back, and I thought it was time to get another mainstream Sunday Live done. So this one, I'm going to do a very simple overview to break down some of the complexities of behavioral science. I thought I'd do it and use technology as a metaphor so that you can help understand some of them a bit better. So the first thing, if you take a humble smartphone handset, if you think that this is kind of devised with a basic function in mind, no different than you can see the kettle and the iron there in the corner, they're devised with a function in mind. That's its modus operandi, and it's going to work best when it's used for that function. Whilst an iron might make a great doorstop, you get more out of it when you actually try and iron your clothes. And you can think about that with people as well. It's no different that people have a basic modus operandi. How do I actually function? I might be more analytically driven. I might have more towards big picture or innovation. And that's where some of those profilings of DISC and all this comes into play, because that's really understanding ourselves. So a quick tip with that is when you understand your profile and understand yourself, you learn how you function best. Then you can leverage your strengths, manage your weaknesses more appropriately. And incidentally, they're only ever an indication of preference of how we function. It's no measure of skill anyway. Then if we look at technology and stick with that one, you then look at, you've got a charger and a SIM card. And why are these important is because that handset alone without the charger and the SIM card is really not going to function. It's when you add the element of charging it and giving it the SIM that you get more traction with the device in the first place. And think about that, one of these is external, one of these is internal. That's the equivalent, if you like, of the science's motivation. There is extrinsic motivation, there is intrinsic motivation. Both have got relevance. I understand there's people who believe that motivation's all bullshit. That's a miscomprehension, misunderstanding of the concept. Think about it this way, it's drive. If you've got purpose and drive, you're driven to go and do something. That's what motivation really is when you break it down. And for those who've got kids, I'm sure they would know those rewards and punishment have to get bigger or deeper or greater as time goes on to get traction with your kids. No different with external motivation. So the tip here, what's your internal drive? What really is your why? When you tap that, you really get more out of yourself. There's a great study done by Robert Walding. It's the longest study done, 75-year-long study. It's a TED Talk. Go and look at it. And they found recently that 80% of millennials, their motivation is get rich and 50% get famous. And incidentally, that's not much different than the motivators of these guys that they started this study with 75 years ago. But as you mature and as you get wiser, you suddenly start to realize that there's motivation that goes well beyond yourself. In fact, I quote Muhammad Ali here. Service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth. It would be a pretty sad, lonely place if we were here alone. And plus, you wouldn't have many people to follow like you anyway. So tap that intrinsic motivation, really identify what's your why at any moment in time, and then find purpose beyond that. But then the third one is what really makes a smartphone robust is really the apps, the connections, and the manner in which the device is actually used. And that is a metaphor, if you like, for EQ or emotional intelligence. It's how this is used that makes it powerful or destructive. It's how it's used that makes it productive or distractive, shallow or meaningful. And so really EQ is that third science that I've talked to. At the end of the day, the tip there would be to remind myself that I'm a human being living in a technological era. I'm not a technical being living in a short human period. So that's a simplified version to understand some of the behavioral sciences. That's 3 of about 7 that I work with. I'm going to be loading more on the behavioral sciences on these Sunday Lives over the coming weeks.